recruiters from John Deere. They are looking to hire for internships, full-time employment, mid-career, early career professionals. So they're an amazing company to work for. So I really encourage you to go talk to them and learn about the great opportunities and what that are available to you at John Deere. Again, I've met many of the John Deere people, worked with them many years, so I think you'll really enjoy the company and enjoy the people that you get to work with. So please check them out. Go to their expo booth and go visit them during the recruitment fair hours.
I echo that. We would love to meet as many people as are out there.
Yeah, I know. And I know John Deere's hired from our population, so it does work.
John Deere has made some very good hires from the IEEE-HKN population.
Exactly. So again, they're really excited to meet you and make that happen. So it's just coming up on 11, just a little bit after 11. I see people still joining us, but let's go ahead and get started. I know you've got a lot of great information to share, our friends from John Deere, but I'm Nancy Ostin. I'm the director of IEEE at Kapanui, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to Pathways Day 2, as well as to this amazing session that we're going to have about growing technical skills outside the classroom with our colleagues and partners at John Deere. I think that's so important because, again, we're talking about what you learn in the classroom and then how you apply it when you go to work. And certainly employers want to talk to you, but talking about technology and how you apply that is such an important thing. So I think we're going to have a great session today. It's my pleasure to introduce Deanna Carroll. Deanna is with John Deere. I'm going to let her introduce herself and her colleague, Mike, and I'm going to turn this back over to you. And thank you so much. Welcome.
Thanks, Nancy. Mike, you want to start?
Yep, I can go first. So welcome to the session again. I'm going to switch slides here. So we're going to start by introducing ourselves. I'm just going to touch really briefly on the John Deere Construction and Forestry mission. So it's answering the fundamental need for smarter, safer, and more sustainable construction so our customers can shape tomorrow's world. Man, stumbling over my words already. Okay, keep going. So just so you know who I am, I'm Mike Pete. I am a systems engineer working on displays for John Deere Construction and Forestry right now. Got 11 years with John Deere. I've had 14 years doing electrical and electronic system development, multiple companies. I graduated from Iowa State University with a BS in electrical engineering, and I was a member of HKN when I was there. So, woohoo. Just going to cover some pictures over here quick. So I'll do the little ones first. So up in the left-hand corner, that's articulated dump trucks. That's where I was right before the position I'm in now. So I was the lead electrical systems engineer on that product. Upper right-hand corner is the 944K loader, which is also the loader was on the cover slide. It's an electric drives loader. I was involved in the validation and testing of that piece of equipment. Bottom right corner here is 710L backhoe loader, which I was involved in the validation of this piece of equipment too, the electrical system on that. And then down here in the left corner is a Deere excavator, which is what I'm currently working on displays for. Right in the middle, I'm just going to highlight this one, was one of my favorite opportunities while at Deere. I was the lead systems engineer for the Smart Grade project on motor graders. We put the first massless grade control system on a motor grader from factory in the world. So this grader will grade on a significant slope in many positions. As you can see, you're kind of not in line. The machine can articulate in the middle, and it has front end steering, and these wheels tip, and each one of these pieces is an independent piece of motion, and there's a lot of sensor fusion going on here to get us globally positioned so we can control this blade within like a half inch of global coordinates. So you can take a design plan and then you can cut it on the ground. I will turn it, touch my free time activities really quick too. So I have 6 kids outside of work that keep me really busy, supporting all of their activities and interests, ranging from music to sports. And then if I get to choose what I'm doing on vacation, we go travel or somewhere new, or we take a cruise. I really enjoy cruising around and exploring new places. Okay, I will turn it over to Deanna.
Hi, everyone. My name is Deanna Carroll. I am an engineering manager for electrical hardware and software. Currently, Mike and I are both at the construction division of John Deere, thus all of the yellow equipment. We are also representing our ag divisions and several other divisions within John Deere. John Deere is a quite massive company. I've been at John Deere about 10 years or so, and have been doing embedded controls, software hardware mix for over 20 years in related industries. Started out in automotive, heavy on road, and now here at John Deere in the off road arena. More degrees than I need. So we felt like I was pretty capable to have a conversation about continuing to grow your technical skills after graduation. So I'm a very strong proponent of lifetime learning, and excited to share what we've experienced and how you might be able to leverage our experience. Free time activities are actually similar to Mike's. I like to just go somewhere different, somewhere new, anywhere from somewhere fancy and exciting to somewhere most people would consider boring. So, welcome you. Mike's going to go through some decks. We very much want to have a conversation with you. So, please feel free. I'll be trying to monitor the chat. And we'd love to stop chat with you during the conversation, and of course we'll also open up for Q&A afterwards. So welcome, and please talk to us.
Okay, we'll jump right into some content. Okay, so first step in continuing your learning outside of the classroom is to own your learning experience. You have to make a plan. You have to drive this development of your own path. Nobody's going to hand it to you. No one's going to tell you exactly what you should or shouldn't be doing. Obviously, getting advice is a good thing, and we'll talk about that as we move through the presentation here, but you really should be as thoughtful about your development as you are in solving any technical problem. So make a plan, make a 10-year career path. Try and look beyond where you are right now and where you want to be next, and look at something bigger, and then say, how do I need to develop myself to be the best candidate for that role? Because there's going to be a lot of good candidates, right? That's just the world we live in. Everybody's working on themselves and trying to move forward. So once you have your direction planned, you want to look at the steps you need to take along the way, right? And then plan out specific growth activities that help you meet those steps. Never forget about your leadership and communication skills. So we like to focus on technical stuff a lot of times as engineers. It's more interesting than learning how to be a better speaker. But leadership and communication are essential when you're trying to advance through your career. We also get asked frequently about, should we focus on a specific technical area and become super experienced in that area and be the expert, or should we get a more broad base experience? And it really depends on what your goal is. So if your goal is to be a technical leader and not a people leader, and you're going to focus in on one specific area and you're positive that that's the place you want to be, then by all means focus on that one place. But if you're not sure and you want to keep your plan flexible, then the breadth is really helpful when you have opportunities come up that you could take advantage of that may not have been directly in your path. And then the last comment I'm going to make here is it's completely okay to change your plan. So when I was right out of school, I thought I knew exactly what I wanted to do in every company that I was in. And by 3 years later, that may not have been the case anymore, and you have to modify your direction. So breadth is really helpful when you're talking about flexibility of your plan. Okay, next one. You really need to realize that the network of people that you know and how well they know you is going to be your biggest asset. So in terms of technical growth, the more people you know gives you the most opportunities. So when people know what you want and what you're interested in, what your current skills are, they can provide opportunities for experience. They can provide opportunities for training that they think would help you go down the path that you want to go in. And you'll really identify the people that are on the journey with you and that are there to help you grow. Alongside of that, you really need to be intentional about people that you want to learn from. So people that are in positions that you want to be in later can tell you the mistakes they made in getting to the position that they're in and what helped them get to the position that they're in better than anyone else. And then make sure when you're talking and getting advice from people that you get a feedback from a diverse pool, because the more perspectives that you can expose yourself to getting feedback from, the more gaps that you're going to find from where you are to where you want to be. Don't be afraid to struggle. So in whatever company you're in and whatever path you take, you're going to be handed projects that you're not feeling like you're fully prepared to do. Sometimes you have to take the easy way just to meet project deadlines, which means you leverage existing knowledge, but you don't really learn it yourself, right? You just figure out how to do it once and get it done instead of really struggling through it and working for the answers and understanding everything along the way. The picture I have on this slide is called the learning pit, and it says good learners go into the pit. So it basically means when you get handed something that you don't know how to do, you're going to try it. You're going to experiment with it. You're going to explore it, and you're probably going to fail, right? It's pretty rare that you get handed something that you don't know much about and you succeed in solving and finding a solution on your first try. But once you're down in the pit, what do you do, right? How do you get back out of the pit? And I picked this version of the pit drawing because I really liked the right-hand side, right? You're going to say, I can do this. You're going to keep trying. You're going to keep changing your strategy. If the first strategy doesn't work, you're going to try something else. And then at some point you might get stuck and you might need help from someone who's already done it or has more knowledge than you, has more expertise in the specific subject area that you're stuck on. And then you have to figure out who can help you along the way. There's a very big difference in asking for help here in the pit versus asking for help here, and how much learning you're going to get and retain out of the experience. So just keep that in mind as you go. Next up, ask questions. So like I said, know when to ask questions. But if you're struggling to even figure out how you should be learning a subject, there's probably a coworker that you have that has done it before and can lead you down the learning path and help you through the pit of saying, okay, you're going to struggle, but when you struggle with this, you can use these resources. You're also going to have the times where you just really need someone to come in and support you and help you figure out a very tough technical issue. And you have to be willing to ask the questions. You're going to find yourself at that point where people think you should be the technical expert, but you really don't know the answer to the question. And you're going to have to be comfortable telling people that you don't know the answer. You're going to be in the situations where you don't understand what someone is saying technically, and you're going to have to make the choice between your own ego and your own growth. And I really liked the point Deanna put this point in here. One really good method in combating that choice that we end up with between our how we look good and how we actually grow is to make sure that you're constantly looking for something new and being a beginner or being bad at something. It helps you stay in that mindset that you don't need to worry about asking questions. And this is one of my more recent favorite quotes, is that being the idiot in the room could end up being an act of service to others. So the intent that he was talking about when he said this was, okay, you go into a room, you don't understand what people are saying, you speak up and ask the questions regardless of whether you think it makes you look stupid, right? And a lot of the time, you are not the only one who needed to ask the questions or didn't understand the content, and you asking the questions helps everyone understand better, because the expert that was talking then has to break it down into easier chunks, right? And get it down to a lower level of understanding so that you can build up to the highly technical content. Um, some other good ways along your career to ask questions and get support like this is to be involved in communities of practice. So John Deere is a big company. We have large groups of engineers that are co-located, and we have segments of those groups that meet regularly, and we call them communities of practice. So like there's an electrical engineering community of practice, and there's a sensors community of practice, and there's communities of practice across all of the functional areas that we practice in engineering and other areas as well.
Hey, Mike, we've got a couple
Yep.
of questions that might be worth bringing in now. I know we have a bullet on one of the slides, but I don't remember if we've covered it or not. We had the question of, do we go for jack of all trades, or do we be a master of one?
Yeah, so that's the breadth versus depth comment again, right? So you really have
Yeah.
to understand your own path is my answer to that question. I personally have had this is my 5th position at John Deere in 11 years. So I can tell you which path I took. I went breadth, but I stayed inside of electrical systems. So I started in a central electrical team that doesn't even exist anymore. And I worked on small electronic components that went on every machine. So on that first slide where I talked about the machines that I impacted, those were the ones that I worked on directly. I have touched components that are on every piece of equipment that's gone out the door since I've been in this building. From there, I went to PV&V, and then I did 3 very different projects inside of PV&V in that time. And then I learned about grade control, and then I learned about trucks, and now I'm doing displays. So I definitely went breadth, but I have utilized all of that breadth as I moved forward in my career.
So I started out going for depth, witnessed the PhD at the front end, and said I'm going to do deep dive vehicle controls, and was going for a very deep expertise there. Actually, I recall telling many that there was no way I was ever going to be a manager, that I was going to go deep technical. Clearly, I have changed that. As a manager, as you grow the area of your responsibilities, typically that broadens in our world, because you just can't have a million people that are a million's a very strong term, but you have finite number of people in the really deep domain. So you just, by nature, as you get more people reporting into you, you become you get more breadth. So I also have chosen what I would consider a breadth. Now, that said, electrical is considered to be somewhat of a specific domain in our world as well. So it's all a matter of how broad. We do have others on our teams that are extremely specific. I know one engineer that I've worked with that was all about engine combustion paths, and he spent his time calculating things that I could not even begin to think about. So you will have both options. You have the option to change as you go forward. Yeah. Any other questions on that topic? I don't know if we answered that very well. It really, really depends on what you want to do, what excites you, and then how you marry that into your career. So a couple other questions. One was, and I'll get to the next one. We've also had the question of how important are mentors in our growth, and should you have more than one mentor? You want to try that one, Mike?
Yep. So I would say absolutely you need mentors. Mentorship is one of those things. So I'll just talk about John Deere because that's easier. There's formal mentorship programs. Okay, so you can sign up to have a mentor, and that mentor will um, you get matched with a person, and then you can kind of feel it out for a little while, and then you can change again if you need to. My personal opinion on mentorship is a little different. I prefer what I would classify as informal mentors, where you build a relationship with someone, um, and then they become your mentor in certain areas, right? So you can learn from them, and I would definitely say more than one is needed. If you only have one person giving you advice, you only have one opinion on every issue or every question you have. Whereas if you have multiple mentors, you can get a more rounded view.
Yeah, I totally agree with Mike on that. And most of mine have also been the relationship formed and the mentoring followed. I've had a couple of formal mentorships. I've honestly was one of those people that said, I don't want to network. I'm not a social person. This isn't who I'm going to be. And I've had a couple of mentors that I was volunteered for. That's a fairly common thing to happen in our world, is you get offered an opportunity and you're really not supposed to say no. And so I accepted those, and they were extremely valuable to me, and continue to be valuable to me in my career years later. So definitely mentoring is helpful, definitely more than one, but make sure that you're connecting and really connecting on a work level or on some personal level, not just mentoring to check the box. Go in with a purpose. And then the next question that we had was, how did the PhD impact my career path to the current role? And is it typical for managers to have PhDs or similar degrees? So as I mentioned, I wanted to be technical. Definitely didn't want to be a manager. And what I found that, and this was at a different company, I was working at Ford at the time. I found that it felt like the business wasn't listening to the technical. The business people thought the technical people were just too technical, and the technical people thought the business people were not very bright. And so I ended up after taking my PhD, and then I ended up getting the master's and served as a bridge between the technical community and the business community within Ford, and then for later companies as well. And I think that is a skill that I bring to companies, in that I can see both sides of that, and have a passion for both sides of that. Is it typical? The PhD is probably not typical PhD in the larger companies. I'm guessing some of the smaller companies that are focused on technology, that PhD and manager roles is probably more common. But in the size of companies that I have worked at, the PhD is less common in the managers. Masters and MBAs more common. That would be my assessment.
I agree with that.
Yep. Okay, I think that's all our questions for right now. Keep them coming in. Um, but we'll continue to talk through the deck as they come.
Okay. I'll just touch on the last point on this slide because I think it's important. Knowledge sharing is a two-way street. So you need to be open to answering questions too. It's not, you can just go to everybody and ask the questions you need and get the information you need. At some point and to someone, you're going to be further along in your journey than they are. And to make this system work, it has to be both. Like, you may have a mentor, but you may also be a mentor. Be a good example. Okay, that slide's in there twice. Okay, no, it went backwards. That's interesting. Okay, so I'll just touch on some learning opportunities that you're going to have most likely throughout your career. So obviously there's university programs. That one's really common and vastly available. A lot of employers have tuition reimbursement or some sort of university partnership that you can leverage. Um, Bigger companies often have developed specific certificate programs. For example, John Deere has multiple levels of system certificate programs that are done through major universities like MIT or Caltech. And then just doing things on your own, like if you have a local university, you can go and audit classes a lot of times for a lot less than it would cost you to take classes and get degrees out of it. So if you're just interested in the learning and don't care about the recognition, that's a pretty good option. Company training. So I'll pretty much guarantee you that your company is going to give you training in your space. They're going to give you training outside of your space too, and all of the soft skills and safety and all of those things. But there are development programs that help you as an engineer develop your skills, test out things, uh, find some of that breadth really early in your career. So there's lets you job hop faster than if you took a full-time position right out of the gate. Workshops are a really good learning experience. You bring a group of engineers together to talk about a specific subject. One that I attended recently was on Ethernet and how Ethernet is being applied to our vehicle systems. And then this last one I put on here is something that is pretty common at Deere, which is called Lunch and Learns. I'm sure other places do them too, where a speaker will come in or we'll have a technical leader in the company provide a 30-minute training session on how to do something. For instance, there was one recently on the basics of Python coding, which you got everybody from mechanical and hydraulic engineers to electrical and software engineers that didn't learn Python attending that one. Professional and technical societies. So this one should be pretty obvious to everybody on this call. So like IEEE, SAE, this one is the Wisconsin Electrification Society. I don't know what SWERI is. That's a, Deanna, you might have to fill that one in.
Okay, I'm sorry, I was playing on the chat. What am I filling in?
Well, what's this one? The SWRI.
Oh, that's Southwest Research Institute. This is located down in San Antonio, and they do a lot of powertrain engine research and leverage. They have some industry consortiums, and they take on work that might be interest to many, like everybody that's doing powertrain. And so they do it at Southwest Research Institute and share it with their multiple partners. So it kind of leverages, it's a single place that companies that are interested in the same thing can grow together and thus get there quicker. It's a really good, it's a really cool one.
Okay. Thank you. Conferences are good. So this is usually where you get together to learn about specific subjects. So Sensors Converge is one that happens around the US multiple times a year. And it's specifically about sensing and the new sensors that are in the market and how sensor fusion is working. There's obviously a vast array of conferences and trade shows. So trade shows is where vendors and OEMs come and show off all the new stuff. So CES is a good one. ConExpo is pretty specific to what we do. So this is the construction expo every year in Las Vegas for the United States and
So,
North America.
so Nancy's the only one online that claimed knowledge of CES. If you guys are not familiar with CES, it's like geek heaven, spoken fondly. They have they showcase future technology from TVs to all sorts of, I don't know. I have actually not been. I typically let my engineers go rather than hog the ticket. But everything you can imagine, from electronics all the way from tiny handheld things up to this year, we were featured. And please go out and check out our battery electric machines that we had at CES. But it's a really cool trade show. You're gonna want to check this out. Sorry, Mike. You know I
No,
had to
you're good.
interrupt.
No, CS is good. Our CEO did one of the keynotes at CES this year as well, and it was pretty good. So I would recommend watching that too if you have interest. We did touch on mentoring and reverse mentoring. So very important to have mentors in your life, both technical and non-technical. Supplier visits and customer visits, I'm going to kind of talk through those really quick. So you can learn a lot about the components that go into what you're building when you go and visit your suppliers. And they are going to be the technical expert on that component. They will know more than you, or they really should know more than you. When you go and see them, you can learn a lot from them and how that component is affected through their processes. Customer visits. So I would rank this one really high in expanding your technical growth. If you do not understand how your customer is going to use your product, it makes it really hard to design something well. So never underestimate the knowledge and value that your customer brings. Job shadowing is pretty cool. I didn't put job swaps on here. That's pretty new. I know it's a challenge as well. So job shadowing is where you would basically get to follow around and experience someone else's position. And it's a good view into other people's daily tasks and lives, so you can kind of get limited feel for what you might be getting yourself into if you put that job on your career path. Special project assignments. So I think this is an excellent opportunity for growing your technical skills, and this can be inside of your given field or it can be outside your given field. So I know in my career here, I have assisted in helping other people grow into some electrical and software knowledge. So especially hydraulics engineers are probably some of the most common to come over to the electrical and software side inside of Deere and get some broader experience even outside of their most common functional area. And it's really beneficial to both teams at that point because they learn the skills that the others have better when they're working that closely. And then the last one I put on the list here is self-led topical research. So if you have interest in a topic, there's a wealth of knowledge that is available now in so many ways that are not in a traditional category. So if you have an interest in a topic, just make sure that you're using good sources, trusted sources, technical sources, and you can discover a lot on your own. The last slide I'm going to show you today is this one, and it's that learning is a process and it never ends. The only way you stop learning is if you choose to stop learning. There's always more to know. There's always more to know in the subject that you have dove into for a really long time, and there's always more to know if you want to make your comfort zone bigger and grow your breadth. So never stop learning. And with that, I think we can transition to any questions you may have that are still out there.
There are several. I'm not keeping up very well. So I'll throw some to you, Mike.
Okay.
Is Deere supportive of sponsoring people to go to professional conferences, etc., and
I
being
would
in part of these orgs? Sorry, go
Yep,
ahead.
I would definitely say yes. Deere is supportive of growing your skills, and they will sponsor you in going to conferences as long as you make a good business case as to why you should be going. And that can go from classes to conferences that are not near you. I would say that's accurate.
Yeah, I would say Deere has got several different programs that we've highlighted through or that we've mentioned through Mike's slides. Most of my degrees were after I was in school. So most programs include most large companies, including Deere, have the tuition reimbursement opportunities, have certificates, encourage you to go to shows, encourage you to go to conferences. There are some times where we're probably a little tighter than other times. When the economy gets a little tighter, we slow down a little bit and then pick back up. So definitely keep learning after you get out of. You should have a ton of different opportunities. Let's see. Do you have any IEEE society chapters with large contingents of John Deere members that sponsor talks and events in your area? So Ryan, I'm going to take this one because this has kind of been a push of mine for the last 2 to 3 years. Many of you probably know Amy Jones. And actually, this is kind of humorous. Amy and I were waiting in line for a COVID vaccine, and she mentioned IEEE-HKN event that she was thinking about going to. And from that, we said, "Oh, this is really great opportunity." And so we have been pushing IEEE-HKN and IEEE together since then, and have rapidly been ramping up. We'll continue to grow that. I don't know that we're in Dubuque. So obviously the region here we are in, but I don't know that we have yet got to the point where we are really having a strong presence in a particular region like that, but it's something we are very interested in doing. Um, did that answer the question? Let me catch back up to where I was at. We're seriously behind, Mike. I blame me.
Yeah, I'm scrolling up. So
it is very valuable to serve as a tour guide or lead demos for customers visiting your company. Great way to learn where their interests are and what they do and don't like, and what your company might need to work on for the future. Yeah, Deere actually does plant tours and we have our factory tours, and we have some of our retirees do these tours, and they're open to the public, and they are awesome. If you have never been in a large manufacturing facility, one, you should do that. And Deeres are very cool. Um, and we have them here in Dubuque, Waterloo, Quad City. I'm assuming we have them in our Georgia factory. I have not been there. So it is very helpful. Going to our customers, so that's bringing our customers to us. Us going to our customers is incredibly valuable. And Mike mentioned this. You You never learn as much as when you go to the customer and the customer tells you what's not working. That's like super valuable when they are comfortable enough to tell you that this isn't how it needs to be. This is not what they need. That is just gold, solid gold when you can get that kind of input. Yeah, Amy Jones is awesome. I think both Mike and I would definitely say that. Um,
Yep.
let's see. If a university was building an EE program completely from scratch, what would you all? Where are you from, Tim? You're making me homesick for Texas A&M. Where would you all at Deere like that to look like? What would you all like that to look like? Ah, ooh, Mike, this one's interesting. What do you think?
If you had to build one from scratch.
What would you want it to look like? I would want a mix of hands-on and deep technical, because I want somebody that can understand the theory, which means deep technical, because the theory goes in. But I want somebody that is comfortable, in my case, getting out on the machine and putting that theory to work. So I would do a mix of hands-on and deep analytics.
Yep. I can't disagree with that. I think the other pieces that I would add on to that is that you really have to be able to work on teams
That was
effectively
my
and by
second one.
yourself effectively.
Oh,
So there's going to be times where you have, we'll just put it this way, you always will have work products that you yourself have to be responsible for getting out. And there's going to be work products that the teams that you work on are going to have to get out together. And knowing how to do both is very important.
that's a good point. I am more of a work by myself. I'm more comfortable in that area, so it didn't set off the flag as much. So I was thinking as well around the teamings, people that can work with others, and that others has to be a wide range of people with different styles.
Yep. And definitely, I think any program should include the soft skills learning. Like, you're going to need a basic understanding of finance. You're going to need a basic understanding of um, how to work with people that are not technical. Like,
Managers.
well, some managers are more technical than others, but even it, yeah, um, marketing.
Yeah.
It's a good example. Like, you're going to work hand in hand with some sort of marketing person, most likely, in your career that says, this is the way the market's trending. This is what we're seeing. This is what we think customers are going to want. And you're going to have to learn how to interpret that and bring it into your engineering and technical realm and transition it into a product.
So I fielded a question earlier, Mike, that would be good to have your input on as well. What's the most important soft skill for someone to work on going into the first job? What soft skill?
Communication is definitely the top of the list for me.
Okay, that's actually what I said as well.
Yeah.
Mostly for that teaming. If you can't communicate well, you're not going to survive well in a team environment.
Yeah. There's multiple levels of communication too. So like there's technical communication where you're working with your peers and they understand as much as you understand. And then there's taking that technical knowledge and breaking it down into non-technical communication so you can explain it to anyone. And you're going to need to do both.
Then we've got a question to follow up here on the two skills that we mentioned, and that's all tying into communication as well, of working by yourself and being able to work in teams effectively. What ways have we found to improve those skills?
Can you say that again?
What ways have we found to improve the skills of working by yourself and working with teams effectively? I think the biggest, while Mike thinks about this, I got a head start because I saw the question come in. I think the one that has been most important for me personally, and again, I tend to work better as an individual, so I'm going to talk to you about the working with teams effectively, is continuing to grow my awareness of the differences in my audience members or my team members. So my style actually works very well with Mike. So Mike and I can communicate and work very well together without too much work. There are other people that will find me overly direct if I'm not careful, and I have to change my style and my communication based on who I am working with. And always being aware of that and trying to make those adjustments has probably been the best learning growth for me in terms of how to work with others effectively.
I do also tend to be very comfortable by myself, but I'm going to tell you, I guess, if I had to approach it as in how to learn to work individually and succeed, um, the easiest way I could tell you to do that would be to set small goals, um, and have someone keep you accountable to those, and then set specific times where you're going to be working by yourself to achieve that small goal. So you can learn to deal with or remove distractions from your workplace, um, and how to balance working by yourself and answering questions as you go through it. Um, teaming, I think the easiest way to learn teaming is to keep doing it, um, and learn how to do what Deanna said, and adjust to the group that you're working in. And that's more than just the way you act and talk. It's also understanding the people that you're working with and making sure that you're leveraging the experiences correctly when the team is working together.
Working effectively in a team is tough. I mean, it's easy to do it somewhat, but it's not easy to do it great. And that is something that I think you will work on your entire career if you are focused on getting that great. Got another question I'll throw to you, Mike. What are your thoughts on rate of career progression? I've known some junior engineers who were very focused on getting promotions as soon as they could, but inadvertently advanced themselves out of the fun and interesting phases of their careers.
I'd say it's pretty easy to do that. If your goal is to make the most money and you don't really care about what you're doing, that's exceptionally easy to do, is to just focus on the next promotion. Um, my thoughts on career progression are you take advantage of the opportunities that are available when you're ready to move. Um, as you go through your career, that will be more apparent to you when you're ready to move to a new position. It's never good to be bored doing what you're doing. Um, if you get bored, you tend to be less productive and less interested in what you're doing and how to solve problems uniquely or be innovative. Um, it becomes mundane, and you just kind
You're
of,
not as good. You're not as good
yeah,
at your
you're not as
job
good.
if you're bored.
Um, that being said, I know people in the building that I work in right now that have been doing the same job for 20 years and do it very well, and they still love it. So it's really personal as to how fast you switch. There are going to be limits at whatever company you're at. Deanna already mentioned in the chat that Deere aims for a minimum of 2 years in a position. So obviously I progressed pretty fast through positions, but some of those were not promotions. They were just laterals to get different experiences, or get out of positions that I thought would be a good fit and didn't end up being a good fit. So there's going to be times where you think you're going to be really interested in something and you end up just really not liking it for some reason. And I would highly recommend, if you're in that situation, make sure you're communicating with your supervisors and the people that can help you remedy it and try and make it fit you better while you're in it.
So I think the only thing I was told once to make sure you finish the job that you're doing before you go look for the next job. Now, nothing ever finishes, so you got to take that with a grain of salt. But it's really about following your passion, as Mike was saying. You got to love what you're doing. Make sure you're in a job that you love what you're doing. And then also make sure you're excelling in the job you're in. I've never gone out seeking a promotion. I've always been focused on doing really well at what I'm doing and getting it right, and those promotions came to me. So I think that's something to factor in as well.
Yeah, I'm just going to touch on what you said there again too. I think it's exceptionally important for you to finish your thing in a role. So if you're only focused on hopping around in jobs, you end up having partial experiences, right? Where you can't say, I did this and this and this and this was the outcome. If you cut off the outcome piece, you're just hurting yourself. It's also one of my most gratifying pieces of all of the jobs I've had is seeing things through to the end and saying, this is a product that I put into production.
So just a shout out to Mitch. I was going to let you try to fly under the radar, Mitch, but we have Mitch in our audience here, and he was an intern on our team. Was it just this last summer? Although summer feels ages and ages ago in this minus 10-degree weather.
Yeah.
So shout out to Mitch. Mitch did ask a question that I wanted to try to hit real quick, although there's no, as everything we've said here, it all depends on you. The value of a rotation program versus going straight into a direct position. Rotation program is, as the name implies, means that you join the company, and as you join it in a rotation program, which usually means you stay in one position a defined amount of time, and then you move to another position for a defined amount of time. And after a certain number of rotations, you are then given your real position, or I can't say final, because none of our positions are final. You tend to change. Deere does have a great rotational program. We call it EDP program. I don't know exactly what that stands for, honestly. Development program?
Yep, engineering development program.
Thank you. And ours are 3 rotations at 8 months. And it is a great program. I honestly don't have a preference. I think it depends on what you want to do. You've heard that we tend to have people stay in a position roughly around 2 years. That's not set in stone. So even if you take a direct position, it's not permanent. I can't call it a final position. This will not be my final position. So I think it really depends on where you are and what you want to do.
Well, Deanna, I hate to cut you off because we're having such a great conversation and there's so much good information, but it's time to move over to our next session. It went really fast because you guys had so much to share. Thank you so much for all your time and expertise. But as I said in the chat, please go and visit our John Deere friends and experts over in their booth. I know they all take a lot of time to be there and talk to you. And they'd love to see you over there. So let's continue the conversation. They'll be there at 3 o'clock to 4:30. I don't know if you're going to be there any earlier, right? But
don't know.
But please go ahead. You can also
3.
find them in the People tab. You can find Deanna and Mike in the People tab. You can direct message them. if you wanted to ask them a direct question, and they'll certainly get that through the platform. But thank you so much for joining us today, and thank you, Deanna, and thanks, Mike. We have to do something about Deanna's etiquette and newness, right? Maybe we can fix that. Coming up in just a few minutes on the main stage is going to be Patrick Nunnally. Now, Patrick Nunnally is the father of the Arbitron and Nielsen rating system, but actually credited with being the during the beginnings of AI and ML. So if you're interested in artificial intelligence and machine learning, boy, that's going to be an exciting session. So join us over on the main stage. And again, thank you so much for being with us for this session with our colleagues and the wonderful company, John Deere. Thank you always so much for being generous with your time and your expertise.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye now.